The world's number one power will always try to push down the world's number one emerging power.
It depends on how strong your country is. Economically, ultimately, it's about that.
The fact that the United States is trying to push down China is something you can expect. This is what history teaches us happens.
I think that there's a big head of steam worked up in America, which probably started around 2010, after the financial crisis, where that was the period when distrust in China began. Distrust was based on the fact that they suddenly realized that China, after the financial crisis, was actually a lot stronger than they realized, and that American dependence on China was a lot more than they realized.
China, in its efforts to remove poverty, in an effort to improve the living standards of its people, in an effort to create the largest middle class in the world, is obviously generating a very large economy that will, at one point in time, overtake the US economy. And throughout history, for 2,000 years, the world's number one power will always try to push down the world's number one emerging power.
Like Belt and Road. Belt and Road is not a formal part of the international system. It's obviously part of the international system, but it's not part of the international system that the United States recognizes. Whatever China says to reassure America, we're not really directly trying to replace you, that's not the full picture. Not because China's being underhand or anything like that, but actually power in the world ultimately is not determined by the existing international system. It depends on how strong your country is. Economically, ultimately, it's about that.
But nonetheless, even though this contest is inevitable, you can still impose guardrails on this contest to make sure that the contest and competition continues within certain boundaries and doesn't go out of bounds.
So much of America's identity since the Second World War has been bound up with being number one in the world. That's something which every citizen in some way or other knows the meaning of and recognizes the importance of. So I think that it's very difficult to pull out of this situation. I'm not saying it's impossible, because nothing is impossible. It depends on the circumstances.